I'm Angie Rasco, and I'm here to teach you about the theory of cognitive development and the zone of proximal development. In the early 20s, Piaget was working, translating some English intelligence testing for the French, and he noticed that the children were answering the questions on those tests a little bit differently than the adults, probably a lot differently than those adults. So from that, he started thinking, what's going on in their brains, what's going on in their minds, how are their thoughts being developed? And he came up with, in 1936, the theory of cognitive development, which is basically just how a child's view of the world is developed. And that came from where is the beginning of thought, the genetic epistemology. Where is that for us? And so he determined that there were 4 stages of development. That would be the progression of reasoning, thinking, and behavior, that it would be developed based on our biological and environmental circumstances. So maybe we have predispositioned genetics to be a little bit anxious or to be more calm, and maybe some things were going on outside of us. Maybe we had a very chaotic environment where people were coming in and out, or maybe we had just walks by the lake, and how that would encourage different development in different people, which then again, going back to that testing, the responses would be very different. So the 4 stages are sensory motor stage, birth to age 2. The child might be asking, where'd my mom go? Object permanence is a big part of that stage of development. When the children see something in front of them, it's there, but when it's gone, it's really gone to them. They do not understand that mom will be back, or that whatever they see in front of them, that it has disappeared, that it will come back as well, and that it's still alive and well. So the next stage would be pre-operational stage from age 2 to 7, and the children might be asking, are you my mom? They might be, in a funny way, asking, are you my mom? Are you my mom? Looking for comfort. They're able to take the things that they've seen in front of them, and they're able to be more imaginative. And so they might be able to use a banana for a phone. They might be able to seek comfort from a friend when their mom is gone, and know that they're starting to know that their mom is coming back after she drops them off for school or drops them off at grandma's. The next stage would be the concrete operational stage from age 7 to age 11. And the kids might be saying, well, you know what, I have one mom, and she does always come back. She might come back a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, with more makeup or less makeup, but they're able to take that conservation more towards math skills, not really towards their mom, but just as a funny example, but more towards the math skills where they can, they're starting to know that 5 apples equals 5 oranges. 5 mice, little tiny mice, equals 5 elephants. It's the same 5. It's counting objects, and no matter the mass or the volume, if it changes, they're starting to be able to conceptualize and understand that it still is what it is, and that the numbers are still the numbers. So the next stage would be formal operational stage, age 11 and up, adolescence to adulthood. Not everybody makes it through all of these stages, but this very final stage would be thinking, hypothesizing, and realizing whatever the truth is about their hypothesis. So they might be interested in social relationships, and they might make up a hypothesis that this is going to happen or this is not going to happen. And then they're able to conceptualize and to understand that yes, it did happen, or no, it did not happen. So they're at a little higher level of thinking there. Throughout all of the stages, discovery through learning was a really important point that Piaget made, which is why in a lot of our preschools you see play as being so important. Even in college, doing is so important because that's how our brains develop. That's where we're starting to develop schemas. And those schemas, let me see what happened here. The schemas are what our brains have come to see that we have experienced. So you might say the schema is similar to a neurological pathway. I believe that neurological pathway is the foundation for a schema. So it's something that we all develop through our experiences. And so one of the concepts would be assimilation, another would be accommodation, and then equilibrium. So those are all the ways that we can incorporate the schemas into our lives. Assimilation would be a younger schema, and Piaget really believed that as we are babies, we might have a more simple schema, and then as we grow up to be adults, our schema would get more elaborate with all of our experiences adding on and adding on and adding on to the different possibilities of the way a schema might turn out. So assimilation would be more like 1 + 1 = 2. So I've had this experience before, and now I'm in a new situation, and I know that the experience is going to end up like this. That would be assimilation. Accommodation would be having the experience 1 = 2, but it doesn't equal 2 this time. And so you're going to have to be accommodating a new experience with your old schema about how that experience ended last time, and then you're experiencing that the schema has changed. And so you're adding on to, and you're accommodating to whatever the situation might be. And then the very final stage of the schemas would be the equilibrium. And that would be 1 + 1 = an adjusted 2. So you'd be able to adjust to whatever situation you're in, and you would be okay with that. And so at times we do end up in disequilibration, and that forces us to always come back to the equilibration. So the next theory that we're going to talk about is Vygotsky in 1931, the zone of proximal development, and that just, in basic terms, what I know and what someone else can help me know. So it's the point of what you know, all the way to the point of what someone else could help you know. So that's the growth and the development. Wood in 1975 created a term called scaffolding. That was the temporary support needed to help build on knowledge. So that's exactly what it says. So when you're building a building, if you look at construction and you see those big pipes outside, or the big supports outside the building, that's called scaffolding. And so that's what Wood is telling us that our brain needs in order to develop on our experiences. And so effective scaffolding would be when a teacher engages, monitors, and models for the children. And so engaging would be making some project really, really exciting for the kids, like, hey, you know, something that maybe they already know, or maybe it's new, but you might want to have a model ready for them, and then you would engage them. Let's build this. Let's build a house with these blocks over here, and then you would monitor them. You wouldn't want to allow them to get too frustrated or too angry with the situation. You would give them a lot of verbal instructions, verbal encouragement, and then you would maybe model a couple of times how to add a block on here or a block on over there. And so that would be effective scaffolding. The more knowledgeable other, I missed this part over here, but the more knowledgeable other would be under Vygotsky, and that's building knowledge with new information from another person, and that's a big part of the zone of proximal development. I'm sorry I missed that. I'm going to go back to it. So knowledge through social interaction is one way that it's applied today. Would be joining with other team members or other students in your classroom to solve a problem. And then another way would be collaborative learning. That would be where a child or a student who has experienced it before, and as Piaget would say, has the schema of the experience, would join someone else that doesn't have that experience, doesn't have that schema. And so then together they would be able to learn and develop and grow. And so, and that growth and learning can happen in a lot of different ways. It's not just math or science, but it can be in areas of social emotional development and just maturity as we all grow up. So another way that it's applied would be reciprocal teaching. The child summarizes questions, clarifies them, and predicts as the teacher's support fades. And so this is one of my favorite parts about teaching, is that when you give the child or the student a text to read, and then you ask them, okay, what was it about? They have to summarize it, and then have them formulate some questions, which is helping them learn the material. And then as they ask those questions of you or of the other students, their questions are clarified, and predictions are made about maybe what's going to happen when we turn the page, what's going to happen next. And so the teacher will support the students as long as they need it, but always thinking about how to fade out and how to allow the student or the children to learn on their own. And so that's the two different theories of cognitive development and the zone or proximal development. Those two all together in one session. And there was some other newer information that this is in the early 1900s, so we've come a long way. We've learned about the brain a little bit more. We have learned about the neural pathways and how basically everything that happens to you creates a neural pathway, and everything that you do creates a neural pathway. So in order to create those neural pathways, your brain needs to be functioning in a healthy way, and that means not sitting for long periods of time, but getting up and exercising. That means that would be something like a brain break. So that means making sure that you're drinking a lot of water, that you're eating the right foods, the right balance of sugar and carbs and proteins and vegetables, and that you are doing healthy things, living a healthy lifestyle, that you're not stressed, you're not anxious. So when we're teaching the kids, we need to think about those things for sure. We don't know what their backgrounds are going to be, where they're going to be coming from, and what they saw on the way to school, what they experienced in the morning when they woke up. And so we need to be mindful of that as teachers. And we need to get the kids into a really pristine position. So starting out your classroom with games or fun activities, some running around, some walking, some talking, some good relaxing, calming stretching. Those kinds of activities are going to support the learner in their growth and development, and they're going to be able to create the proper neural pathways, because sometimes when the environment's not correct, or even a lot of times some biological things might prevent the neural pathways from creating correctly, and that's where we see children that have some problems and adults that have problems, because those neural pathways lead into adulthood. And don't ever think that you're too old to learn and that you're too old to make new neural pathways and new changes to your behavior that will support those pathways to grow and to keep learning. So that's all I have for today. That's all I have for now, and thank you for watching.